Yeah, I'm good.
All right, bro, let's go. What's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. I got my hip hop squad up here in effect with me today. Y'all see we got special guests. We got PMD from one of the dopest groups ever, EPMD, sitting in with us tonight. Paris Smith. What's good, P? You know we gonna be jumping into a lot about the whole breakup with you and E. Like, why did Das pick you and why did Redman pick E? I want to talk about E jumping out the window. Was that a suicide attempt? Like, talk to us for real about what's going on. PMD, what's good, baby?
Kill Vague, what's going on, fellas?
This dude came in with the bucket hat on, looking like PMD. You know what I mean? I ain't know who he was. And then y'all already know who we got. We got my man Vague sitting there with us tonight. What's good, Vague?
All right, what up, y'all? What's good?
All right, so here's the thing, man. Ever since about maybe I guess that Time Is Illmatic, I think that came out about 2 years ago. We're doing a show about Time Is Illmatic, and Vague keeps talking about his cousin Will. And he keeps talking about Will. And me and Ev is like, yo, who the fuck is Will? He's like, Ill Will. And Ev is like, yo, your cousin is Ill Will, like Nas Ill Will. And I'm like, nigga, I done known you for 20 years. I ain't know nothing about no Ill Will and all. So all that to say, Ev was so high. He was like, yo, we got to do a show on Will. We got to do a show on Will. Ev actually just moved to Cali, so he can't be with us tonight. But, you know, I reached out to Vague because one of the things that me and Ev always talk about, there's so many key people and key components in hip hop that we really don't know about. You know what I mean? And I've always wondered, and I'm sure other hip hop heads have too, like, who was Ill Will? Like, of course, we knew he was Nas's man. We knew, you know, from the first time I heard Halftime, and he says, yo, rest in peace, Ill Will, yo, we out. It was kind of like, yo, who is Will? And you're like, he talked about him enough for me to be like, yo, who, you know, was really good with this dude. And then, of course, if you saw, you know, Time Is Illmatic, we got Jungle and Nas talking more about it. But, you know, I've always wanted to get Vegas in here. And then the crazy part is about 2 weeks ago, Bezo has said that he was hearing a rumor coming out of Queensbridge that Ill Will wrote the rhymes or some of the rhymes for Nas's Illmatic. So I said, B, we got the dude to go to right here. We gonna keep y'all on the edge of y'all chairs. We ain't gonna talk about that right now. You know what I mean? We gonna talk about that later. But Vague, tell me this, man. Just break down the family tree of you and Ill Will, just so people, we all understand like what it is and everything.
All right, well, you know, he was about 3 or 4 years older than me. Like, I got an older brother, you know what I'm saying, who is 10 years older than me. But, you know, this was my cousin who was the only other boy in the family who was closer in age to me. So his mother is my aunt on my mother's side. You know, I'm from Brooklyn, as a lot of people know. They, as far as I've known them, you know, they've always lived in Queensbridge. And like, probably from when I was a little kid, me and my younger sister, but as a little kid, all the way up until like my teens, maybe 15, I was in Queensbridge like every weekend for the most part. So, you know, like the 80s, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's the breakdancing, the ballys, sheepskin coats, you know, beatboxing, battling, you know what I'm saying? I would do my thing, you know, on my block, of course, but, you know, I would be in Queensbridge. And with Will, because we were so close in age, you know what I'm saying? He was more like a brother to me because, you know, he was so close to my age. It was like we would do the same things, whether it was the music, whether it was the, like watching the Kung Fu movies that used to come on like Saturday mornings back in the days. And, you know, all those different things. So we were so close in age, you know, we kind of had this bond. And, you know, I would come around, like I said, like almost every weekend with my little sister. And, you know, I think I mentioned in one of the records that we did, the Legacy Hustle joint, like, you know, we loved hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, every time we got up, it was like, you know, oh, you know, me being from Brooklyn, I'm like, yo, I think I saw a Kane the other day. He like, I remember when one time I was out there, we went to the store, and he was like, now, you know, this, if you listen to my podcast recently, you know I'm going, but he was like, yo, they go MC Shan. So he yelled out his name, like, yo, Shan. And Shan had, hey, like, wait, Shan had a bucket on. Is that Shan right there?
Man done crept up in the podcast now, man.
Yeah. Like, yeah, like he, we saw like Shan walking, and so he did something like, you know, peace sign. Me back in the days, I was like, whatever. Like by then, I'm like, you know, The Bridge Is Over came out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, man, like because we were so close in age, and the fact that I was always over there, and you know, like I said, my mother and his mother were sisters. We was always around, so you know, I was there for a lot of those early years in Queensbridge, and you know, some of that hip hop history. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
wasn't history to us at the time. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It was just what we was doing. But yeah.
All right. Now, like you said, you're from Brooklyn. You're spending all this time in QB. What's QB like at that time? I mean, like you said, you know, and give us a year on this because you're saying after The Bridge Is Over. So we talking like 88, 89-ish?
Yeah, this is, I mean, of course, we used to be there, you know, way earlier than that.
Right.
But for the most part, the vibe was kind of like most of New York City. The only difference was, like, I think I mentioned in past podcasts where boroughs kind of had their anthems. Like Queensbridge had the bridge. We wound up getting the Audio 2 Top Billing. That was kind of looked at as a Brooklyn anthem. But it was the same vibe. You know what I'm saying? It was, you could be on my block and people are battling, you know, breaking at a block party. You go to Queensbridge, it was the same vibe, but it was a little different because I grew up in a project that was like small, like it really only had 4 stories. So you talking about Queensbridge, and when they say, you know, in their lyrics, it's like a maze. That's no bullshit. Queensbridge is huge. You know what I'm saying? It's 6 floors, you know, each building, but it's people everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And you really surrounded by the projects. So a lot of times when things was going on, or like certain records were hot, you know, especially during the summer, you walk through Queensbridge, like in 88, you could hear, you know, whatever playing on the radio. You could, you know, somebody want to battle, whether it's some ramen shit or something else, you know, crowds just form. But yeah, it wasn't crazy, at least to me, because, you know, we were so young. You wasn't really paying attention to some of the adult things that was going on. You was just kids, you know, just having fun in the hood.
All right. Now, for cats who may not know, Vegas Rhymes, we've done 3 albums together. The Gray Area, You're All Welcome, and Keep Calm. So, and I know just through, you know, talking with you on the time it was on Matic joint that Will used to rhyme. So when did it go from hip hop, you know, we just like it, you know, because that's how it always is. It's like, you know, you start off as the casual fan, or at least in our day, you start off as the casual fan. Who was the first to pick up the pen, you know, and how did that start to grow for you?
Well, it was definitely him, because like with me, again, I did what he did. You know what I'm saying? Because he could beatbox really good back in the days, and he could dance really good. So I would emulate what he would do. The first time I remember him actually writing a rhyme was for like school or something like that, right? It was whack, y'all. So don't even go, because even we was looking like that shit's whack. Like, you know what I'm saying? But he was so excited because, you know, he wrote a rhyme. But this he might have been 13, maybe 12. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't that old, but I remember the first time he wrote a rhyme. And I remember I came over one weekend. He said it or whatever. He said his rap name was Ill Will Ski at the time. Y'all know how them 80s name goes.
Yeah.
That bullshit.
Vegas, real quick, did you know back then what ski stood for? Just curious.
No, man. I just wondered why niggas was throwing that shit on their name all the time.
Thank you, Greg. We just had this conversation the other night. I was telling them my name used to be Kill Rock Ski. And here goes Jay's talking about, man, why are you naming yourself after cocaine? I'm like, what are you talking about, cocaine? Like, I don't know nothing. I said, yo, the boy from the Fat Boys was Cool Rock Ski. I was Kill Rock Ski. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had the powder and the rock form. I'm sorry, yo, we digress.
yeah. See, that's that Baltimore wire coming out of you again, man. I ain't know nothing about no ski, man. But so his name was Ill Will Ski.
Yeah, he was going by that. And you know, I always, because this is the thing also that I failed to mention. You think I'm funny. He was mad humorous, you know what I'm saying? So when he wrote the rhyme and he said the name, I wasn't taking him that seriously anyway. Because, you know, he was smiling while he was saying the shit and all that, but I could tell he also had a temper, and I could tell that, you know, when I was kind of smirking, like, this is bullshit. Like, you know, he was kind of in his feelings, like, nigga, this is serious. It's my name.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's my rhyme. But yeah, it was definitely him. I honestly, I didn't start writing until after he died, like maybe like 94. Is when I started writing, because I was always going to be a DJ anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because my father was a DJ, my brother was a DJ, and Will wound up becoming a DJ also. But I was never thinking about, you know, rapping. I wanted to rap, but I never thought about it, never tried it. But he definitely was the first one to start. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Now tell me this. So since y'all so close as like brothers, are you ever like, y'all gonna form a group? Like you gonna be the DJ, he gonna be the rapper, or is the age difference kind of pushing those dreams to the side?
Yeah, there was never a point like that, because it was really like I was the little homie, you know what I'm saying, from BK. So most of what he would probably do when he started to take it a little bit serious, as far as, you know, the dancing and all of that, was amongst friends, you know what I'm saying? That being Nasir, Mike, who's Grand Wizard from Bravehearts. You know, it was more so like maybe with them, they were doing more of that. But with me, it was like when I would come around, it was always fun time. And again, when you and you know, I'm only thinking about the 80s right now, because obviously I was older in the 90s. But it was just a thing where it was more like, okay, well, I'm here, let's have fun. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's some hip hop related stuff or not. The only thing that was serious is when it was like, you know, it was, yo, Steve, battle this nigga. And
okay,
I'd be down to battle with the dancing and shit. Niggas ain't know I cut a rug a little bit back. You know what I'm saying?
Did you have some skids back in the day, man?
Man, I don't know what I had, but if it came to battling, I wasn't afraid of shit. So, especially, I don't know if they did this everywhere, but don't let me go to a birthday party and some adults like, all right, kids, dollar dance. That fucking dollar is mine. I'm like, oh, word, let me take my blazer off and get on the dance floor. But yeah, man.
Now we're in '88, so we talking some Scoob and Scrap routines. We ain't talking about breaking right now, right?
It was kind of all of it back then, because none of the rhyming, none of the DJing was a part of it. It was more so the breaking and the popping, you know, watching all the classic movies and shit like Breaking and Beat Street, Crush Groove, just kind of idolizing these different rappers and shit, especially Big Daddy Kane. Me and him was super big on Big Daddy Kane, even to the point later where I think I mentioned on one of your podcasts when they used to go to like Macy's and J.C. Penney's and they would let them do videos. Like, you know, you bring your music and you get to do a video. And I remember him and his friends doing that on a number of occasions. Like, I never did one. But I think I told y'all, like, they did Ain't No Half Stepping. So I already knew how much he liked it and how much I liked it. So I'm like, I know you was Kane. But I think I told y'all before, the person who ironically was playing Kane was Nasir, who was the quiet dude, you know, but we'll get to that. All
right. And since you already kind of touched on that, when did that friendship happen? Because from watching Time Is Illmatic, you know, you hear Jungle talk about how they were all best friends. And, you know, like I said, just throughout time, it's not too many MCs who continually shout out, you know, they mans like the way Nas shouts out Ill Will. In fact, I don't really think I can think of any MC who, you know, it's kind of like with Troy. Even with Troy, you know, CL, you know, had the song, but I don't think it, you know, I don't still hear CL, you know, 20 years later still talking about Troy. And that's no disrespect. I'm not saying anything like that. But just as far as MCs who shout out they mans who passed, you know, Nas has always talked about Will. So when did that friendship and when did that bond like kind of start?
I assume that it happened, you know, pretty early because you know, Nas lived on the floor right below him. Um, I forget the number, but he was on the floor, you know, below him. And I always knew, you know, they were friends and all the other friends. Same thing with Jabari, aka Jungle. I always knew that, you know, he had all these different friends on the block, and I knew Nasir lived on the floor below him. And as far as I know, you know, they were always friends, you know what I'm saying, since kids, little kids. And again, when I would come around, it was more so like, you know, oh, Will's little cousin is here. And, you know, like when you're in the hood, you're gonna, even as a little kid, you're gonna get tested or whatever. And, you know, I'm from the hood too, so there was nothing I wasn't down with, even as a little guy. Because my cousin always had my back, and the simple fact that I wanted to be like him. So if he was bad, I was bad. You know what I'm saying? Right. If he gonna steal out the store, I'm stealing out the store. But as far as like with him and Nasir, it had to be, however early. But I mean, as far as long as I had known Nasir, he had always been his friend. You know what I'm saying? And because he was always around. So.
All right. So the whole time you're hanging out in Queensbridge and hanging out with Will, Nas is there, Jungle is there, the rest of them cats is there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It was plenty of times, like there was plenty of times, we be in the crib a lot of the time. But like when we go outside, all his friends would be out there or whatever. And like one thing about Nasir, especially back then, like he always showed mad love to me or whatever. I don't know if he was amused by me because of the simple fact that I would just do shit. You know what I'm saying? Like one story, I know there's one cat who probably don't want nobody to hear this, so I'll leave his name out of it. But I remember one time, and again, this is when I was like mad young and they were young. They might have been 9 or 10 or whatever. And I remember like my cousin Will was like, yo, slap this nigga in the face. And I'm looking like, ain't that your friend? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want me to slap your friend? I did it. But, it was some hood shit where it was kind of like, yeah, they wanted to, maybe they wanted to beat him up anyway or some shit like that. But I could see that when I did that shit, because it didn't take much for me to be like, all right, you know what I'm saying? For them to kind of feel like, oh yeah, Steve is cool. So like when I would come through, they always show mad love. But yeah, man, it's just, it was kids, badass kids in the fucking hood. You know what I'm saying? Slapping their friends, trying to set this nigga up and shit. Don't do that, kids. Don't do shit like that. Fucked up. I feel bad, even though I was a little kid. I feel bad, like, damn, why I do that? You know what I'm saying?
This nigga. All right, so Will's rhyming. Nas and him have always been down. When do you start to see it becoming serious with Nas? I mean, of course, for us looking from the outside in, it's like the first time I think we all heard Nas was, of course, on Live at the Barbecue. When was it a weekend you came out to Queensbridge and it went from just fun and games to like, nah, like, yo, we serious?
Honestly, I did not know Nasir rhymed until Live at the Barbecue.
Oh, okay.
Because I was never around. Like there wasn't no moments when I was around and like niggas was in the cypher and I'm like, oh, Nasir is kind of nice. It just was never that. Most of the time, like I said, like eventually my cousin became more of a DJ. And I knew he was DJing, but I was only thinking about, him DJing parties. At the time, I didn't know about the Live at the Barbecue shit. I didn't know about the Large Professor stuff. I didn't know about shopping demos. Because honestly, I found out months before my cousin passed. Because my grandmother had passed in the fall of 91. And, he wound up getting murdered in 92, like towards the summer, March or something, I think. But the thing is I remember like after my grandmother's funeral, we in the car and my brother's driving and he put in a tape, and he was like, yeah, my friend, you know, he's talking to my brother. He's like, yeah, my friend, you know, he's on this Main Source album. So he's playing it. I don't know it's Nasir. I don't know who the fuck he's talking about. He just says his friend. So I'm thinking it's some random dude. And then, you know, they laughing at the fact that, you know, he said, go to hell for snuff Jesus, this, that, and the third. And it wasn't until later that I had found out, like, oh, that's nasty, not like Nasir. Because you got to understand, every time I was around, Nasir was kind of quiet. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like he never talked, but he wasn't the loudest person in the room. That was Will. You know what I'm saying? And some of the other cats. So I never even could imagine that he rhymed. And I never really got to talk about that with Will because he wound up doing a bid not too long after that. And then, you know, he passed away. But I didn't know it was a serious thing, you know, where it would eventually lead to a record deal. So
you find out that this is the quiet nigga. Like, what, I mean, how does that make you feel? Is it like, oh shit, like, yo, this rap shit is real? Like, was it just like, you know, oh, that's just Main Source, or that's just the verse? Like, what was your take on it?
I thought it was big. I mean, you know what it did? It kind of made me think that it was a reality that all the stuff we would do as far as hip hop, from the dancing to the DJing, that we could possibly make it too. Because I knew, like, my cousin was always into like dancing contests and things of that nature. And I could tell he kind of always wanted to be on in some respect. But, you know, maybe not as a rapper or whatever. But I think for me, when I learned, because really it didn't hit me until after my cousin's death, and he came out with Halftime, and he did the video with my little cousin in it, that I was like, damn, he really has a record deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I didn't think anything beyond that, because growing up in BK and around the way, there was a lot of people who had deals with Def Jam that never came out. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of stories, all kind of shit that was true that I could see with my own eyes, but nobody ever really became anything. You know what I'm saying? And this was the first time it felt like, oh, you know, he's actually good. Maybe something's going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's bug, because I've always wondered, and Jay's chiming on this too, being from Baltimore, like in Philly, you know, we had, you know, Jeff and Will, we had Steady B, you know, cool seeing them dudes. But, you know, I used to spend every summer of, like, I guess similar to you going to Queensbridge, well, you every week, and I was every summer, but I would spend my entire summer in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, you know, and I would like be on this rapper alert. Like, I mean, like, I would just be looking for any rapper. Like, yo, I used to bring the subway map home on my wall in Philly and circle where niggas was from, like St. Albans, Queens for LL and Hollis and all of that. And it just always would amaze me that, you know, you could be walking down the street and see Special Ed, or you could be walking down the street and running the Kane. So I get exactly what you're saying, like, because, you know, for me being from Philly, and most of those rappers were all from West Philly. All the people who were getting on was from West Philly. I'm from Uptown, so it's like a whole nother world. You know what I mean? So if I see my man get on, it's like, oh shit. But I see what you saying, like, yo, I done seen mad niggas, you know, kind of get on, whatever, like that. Jace, what was that like for you in Baltimore?
As far as,
I mean, just as far as, I mean, like, you know, just even thinking that you could walk down the street and run into somebody that you just seen on Rap City or on BET or something like that.
It was crazy, man. The first time I did it, it was actually the Jizza in Manhattan, and just random. And to me, it was like, oh, this dude's just randomly walking down the street. Just, you would think it would be a lot more hoopla behind it, but he was just a random dude,
right?
Random normal guy, cool cat.
Right. And I mean, I'm sure y'all growing up with that. So say this, well, we already, you know, through the Time is Illmatic thing of what's going on, and if you could just speak on it for cats who may not have seen it, just so what exactly happened with, you know, Will being murdered?
Well, like, this was obviously like years later or whatever, going from all the kid stuff or whatever, and you know, he was getting in trouble a lot. He did some time a couple of times, you know, a couple of months here and there. The last bid he did was, you know, probably the longest. I don't think it was a year, but it was pretty close. Or maybe I'm mistaken, but the picture that they typically show with him, like with the red hat on and the red jacket, that was like the last bid he did or whatever. But I remember, which is ironic, because I was there when that night. I remember I was there. I remember coming through to, you know, as always, me and my sister coming through on a weekend, and I'm walking across the basketball court, and you know, now I'm like 14 or 15, I think. And you know, I just hear somebody, you know, yell Big Steve, and it's like, first of all, nobody called me that, and two, you know, I wasn't sure if somebody was talking to me or not. And then they said it again, and I happened to look over the bench, and it was Nas. And you know, so I say what's up, and then I see Will on the bench too, and you know, I knew there was a difference, because I'm like, this nigga is a teenager, he ain't got no job. Where the fuck you get that big ass chain?
Right.
Clothes is, you know what I'm saying? Clothes is crazy and all that. So I knew what it was. I knew what they were doing. So you know, I say what's up and all that, and he asked me, you know, you here for the weekend, blah blah blah, and he like, I think at the time, Alien 3 was coming out like that weekend, because it was a Friday. And he was like, yo, later we going to see Alien 3. You know, if you want to come, let me know. I'll come upstairs and get you when we go. And I remember, you know, feeling kind of eerie, because, you know, I was a type where I was like, everything was, my mother's going to whoop my ass. You know what I'm saying? So I was just looking like, y'all niggas out here slinging. If she know even though we family, if she know I'm even hanging around that shit, I'm going to get my ass whooped. And mind you, I'm like 14, 15, and I'm already like, I don't know if it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Not that she was whooping my ass at that age, y'all. Because that's a little old to be getting your ass whooped. But, you know, I just remember like saying like, all right, or whatever. And I went up in the crib, and I was there for a while. And I remember, like, as it got a little bit later, maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night, you know, he came back in the crib, and I figured he was going to ask me, like, yo, you going? But he came in, and he looked angry, because he, like, went back to his room and shit. And, you know, I was just like, oh, well, maybe he's not going, because then he left out, still kind of heated or whatever. And I remember, you know, it wasn't no thing that any of us were thinking about. You know what I'm saying? He always was out late at night or whatever. And I remember, you know, we went to sleep, and then maybe at some point, like 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody was banging on the door. You know what I'm saying? So it's like me, my little sister, and his little brother sleeping like on a couch bed, and my aunt and uncle was in the back. So, you know, somebody's constantly banging on the door. So, you know, I wake up like, what the fuck is going on? And my aunt answered the door, and there's some chick saying, you know, come outside, Will's been hurt. So my aunt go outside, and I'm not even gonna lie, I instantly thought of that. Like, he was shot, you know what I'm saying? And judging by Shorty's tone, I was like, it doesn't sound like it's gonna end well. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you know, I'm younger. You know, I done seen death and other shit happen in the hood. So I'm feeling like it was only a matter of time before it comes for one of us. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember, like, you know, me and my little sister was up. His little brother was up. I forget how old he was at the time, but he was really young, because when my aunt came back, you know, she just, as soon as she got in the crib, she just burst out crying. And, you know, I knew instantly what it was. And my little cousin was so young, he wasn't really comprehending the situation, because I remember the first thing he said was like, yeah, when I get older, I'm gonna grow up and be a cop, so I can arrest people like that so they don't kill nobody anymore. And I know from that moment on, instantly my life changed. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said before, I was snuffing his friends, stealing out of stores, and doing all this bad shit. And I kind of felt a sense of responsibility at that point, where I was like, this can't happen. Because, you know, in my family, like, his father wasn't around, my father wasn't around. Most of my friends' fathers wasn't around. Most of his friends' fathers wasn't around. So I started feeling like, you know, in my family, we don't really have, all the women are the strong ones and they barely holding on, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like we needed to change shit. And I felt like I needed to be a part of that change. Now, granted, my brother was the first to graduate college. But, you know, if I didn't follow him, it would have been all for nothing if it's just one person went to college. So I kind of felt the sense of responsibility, but that night was just crazy because of, you know, this is happening to people in the hood. You didn't know why. But basically the story in regards to how it happened is there was this chick that liked him, you know what I'm saying? And you know how some chicks like you like to play, fight, and do shit, but he didn't like her. And she would constantly like nag or whatever. And who knows, maybe he fucked around with her some shit. But she kind of got an attitude. She did something and she popped his chain. Now, I think I sent you a photo of the actual chain that, you know, obviously back then for a dude who's a teenager, it was a lot of money. And Shorty popped it. So he hit her. And when he came in the crib, that was after that had happened. You know, I didn't know at the time, but that was after that had happened. So she called whatever boyfriend she was dealing with who lived in BK and said, you know, this dude hit me and blah, 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 and beat on me or whatever. So he came up that night and apparently went, you know, was looking for my cousin. And, you know, niggas is young, drinking and shit like that. So nobody's really paying attention. So, because this dude's from out of town, you know, like, yo, where's Will at? And one of his friends was like, you know, like, he over there. And that's when he just rolled up on him and started shooting. And I think Jungle mentioned it in the Times of Illmatic documentary, that because he was the only one that came over to the situation. That was like,
Jungle did.
Yeah, Jungle was the only one that was like, yo, what the fuck? And he wanted to get shot in the leg. The dude shot him in the leg. And the only reason why he didn't get killed is because the dude ran out of bullets. That was like the only reason why he's even here to this day. And I think it, you know, I even see it in him, even to this day, that it affected him. To know that, you know what I'm saying? To know that, for one, he could have been dead, and he sat there because he's my age.
Okay.
So he witnessed this shit, you know, at a very young age, and this is a friend of yours. But yeah, man, it was just a crazy night, and the first time I had experienced something like that, where somebody so close to me became like a statistic, you know, like what we used to call back in the 90s when a lot of dudes was dying in the hood over crack and all that shit. But I know for me, that was like a catalyst to change a lot of shit. And Nasir wasn't out there when it happened. But yeah, man, this shit was crazy.
All right, now tell me this. What was like, so Will is going, do you still come around Queensbridge? Or like, I know you said that, you know, shifted your direction, but I know, like you said, that Will was the reason you came around. Did you continue to come, or was that like your last, you know, venture out to Queensbridge or like that?
Nah, I continued to come around because, you know, it was honestly, we came around because of him and my Aunt Bercy.
Right.
Because our house was like the fun house. You know what I'm saying? You come in there, she just like, y'all want some candy? We like, hell yeah, we want some candy. You know what I'm saying? So we continued to come around, of course. And especially there was a time, because like when you asked me earlier about, you know, how I felt about when Nas was rhyming, it was different for me. It wasn't like it was for every other hip hop fan, even once Illmatic came out, because it was so close to home. For one, I know him, so it's hard for me to separate Nasir from Nasty Nas.
Right.
To just hear him as a lyricist. And then, you know, he's naming his album Illmatic. You know, it's dedicated to my cousin. I'm seeing my cousin's picture everywhere, you know what I'm saying, on video shows and shit. So it took a long time for me to just be like, to accept him as like, yo, he's this dope rapper that everybody likes. But in the earlier years, like after that, I used to come around when he would bring videos up, because my aunt used to have this thing on weekends where he would bring whatever new video he had. The first video he brought around was Halftime, when they filmed that. And she would fry chicken, and all, you know, all Will's friends would be in there. I would come through, and, you know, we watched the video, and, you know, it honestly, it was good, but it was kind of unhealthy in some respects, because it wasn't like it was this big celebration. A lot of people was still kind of mourning my cousin, and you're talking about a year or two later, you know what I'm saying? And it was just a almost like a, I don't want to say a bad vibe, but it was more like, you know, we were happy to see Nasir was doing what he was doing, but it was a somber atmosphere in some regards. But yeah, even when he did the Back to the Grill Again video, he had the tape to that. He brought that around. You know, I was there for that when we was watching that shit over and over. And something else. It ain't hard to tell when he did that joint. But again, you know, for me, it was just, it was awkward. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, I'm used to being around them, and I got my cousin there, and now he's not around. And even though they always looked out for me, like, when you want to talk about knowing ill will in Queensbridge, after he died, when I would come through, dudes would know who the fuck I was, and he wasn't around. And it wasn't, you know, somebody who knew me would be like, yo, that's Will Cousin, and niggas would just be like trying to make a joke here, like Coming to America, where niggas would just be on the steps breaking up weed, and, you know, usually you like, damn, I gotta walk up the steps, these niggas on the steps, and one nigga would be like, yo, that's Will Cousin. Niggas would be like, oh, all right, what up, man? Like, just move out the way. And I used to feel like, God damn, like, did he know this shit? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it was always love, you know what I'm saying, when I would come through. But again, just the whole Illmatic situation for me was, I couldn't really be as happy as everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Because it was just like a bittersweet situation.
Now, I never put two and two together, but and so you just said it. So is Illmatic about ill will? Like, is that where the ill part comes from?
Yeah, because when he did the Source article, he talked about I don't know if this was during the rating. Was that? I think that was all in the same issue where they interviewed.
I want to say that was the joint with Gangstar on the cover on the track.
It was
Peace and Nas, and then they did the rating. Yeah,
because that's when I learned that the ill part was a dedication to Will, and the whole, you know, the whole Illmatic thing. And even though even at the time I was just kind of like, I don't understand. I don't understand it. I got why, but it was crazy. It was surreal to see, like, you know, here's Nasir with all these producers that we know and we bumping their music, and they working on his album, and they talking about him being the next coming. And, you know, I'm like, damn, and Will's not even here to enjoy it, because he was positioning himself to be the DJ. Because, you know, Kel, y'all and Jay, you know, like back then, that's how it was. There was a rapper and a DJ.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he was trying to position himself to be the DJ, even though he was still writing. Because I remember when Nasir brought the Halftime video by, and he was mentioning, he was like, yeah, you know, Will was writing, he was getting better. And sometimes, you know, me and his little brother, Kennedy, you know, because again, we don't pull any punches. Like, you just gotta be real with certain shit. I was like, he could have been just another whack member of the Bravehearts. You know what I'm saying? For all we know.
Right.
But the fact that Nasir said, you know, he was still writing and trying to get better, that just told me that he was being a DJ because he wanted to be in it, but maybe he also wanted to be an MC just as much as he saw, you know, what Nasir was doing. Because he was empowered by that shit. That main Source verse, like, he loved that shit.
Right. All right, so with this, so you come to Morgan, you're 2 years behind me, so you came in 94, right?
I came in 95.
You came in 95. All right, so you came in 95. By this time, Nas is Nas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You said you started writing in 94. Is there ever yo, Nasir, remember me? And it's funny because ever since I've known you, I'm just putting things together now. You've always said Nasir, and I never understood why. Before I knew you, you knew Ill Will, because I'm just like, yo, why does nigga don't call Nas like everybody else? But for you, the nigga was Nasir. But
Yeah.
is there ever a time where it's like, yo, Nas, put me on? Like, you know, you're put me on a song or put, you know, get me a deal or anything like that?
Yeah, that actually came a little bit later. Like when I started rhyming in 94, that was honestly that came through playing around with my little sister with stopping pause tapes and you know, and it was the first time like I wrote a rhyme and I was like, holy shit, you know, I wrote a rhyme. And it just went on from there. But I always kind of did it for sport, kind of like I've done in recent years. But there was a point maybe like 98 where you know, I was really contemplating going in that direction of being an artist. And you know, my friends already told me like, "Yo, your shit sound like songs that's on the radio. You need to use that connect." And I never really wanted to do that because you know it wasn't like those visits to Queensbridge, and then I went to school and I never saw him. Like I would still come around. Like when I was leaving for Morgan, he was right there in the projects. I would see him all the time. You know what I'm saying? Um, but it was never a sense of me like, yo, you know, I rhyme now, let me get on. But in probably like 98, me, a couple of other friends, we, you know, we was always on Morgan's campus rhyming and all of that, and we was kind of forced to be reckoned with. And we all kind of had connections where I had one friend who was like wound up ghostwriting for Foxy, and then there was Kel who got a deal with Will Smith. And so I was just kind of like, well, you know, I'll probably regret it if I don't try. You know what I'm saying? So like once I made a demo, I got in contact with him. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I want to make clear to people when it comes to Nas, he doesn't act any different from what I mentioned when I was a little kid. That nigga's more excited to hear from me than I am to hear from him. That's because I'm a grouch, but I'm a moody motherfucker. What can I say? But there was never a time where I called him. Didn't matter how out the blue, how far in between conversations. Once he knew it was me, it would be like, "Yo, what up?" Blah 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 blah. He was ecstatic. You know what I'm saying? I really don't see it being any different if it was today. But back in 98, I just went hard and I went and got in touch with them and shit. We exchanged numbers and, you know, I sent them my demo and, you know, and they heard it and they was like, yo, you know, when you coming up here? And, cause he was in New York at the time. And right then and there, I just felt this crossroads of, cause look, I watch everything. You know what I'm saying? You know, Kill, we Aries. You know what I'm saying? I watch every motherfucker. And I didn't see the businessman in him that would make it worth my while to leave college when I was about to graduate in a couple of months.
Okay.
So for him, it was like Nashon and all them other cats, like come to the studio now type joint, or as soon as you can. And me, I'm like, shit, I got final. I got this to do. I got that to do. Do I really want to say fuck that shit and just bounce for this? So my thinking was always, okay, maybe after I graduate. And, you know, after a while, I mean, it was on me. It was all me. It wasn't no like, yo, this shit ain't cutting it. Or, you know, you bombed here or whatever. They were opening the gates. But for me personally, I always felt like, well, if it doesn't work out for some of those dudes he have under his wing, they go back to the hood.
Right.
Me, on the other hand, I'll be pissed that. I don't have that degree to fall back on. If I put out a single, it flops, or I never come out, or whatever the case. So I chose a more secure future for myself, where I felt like I wasn't that excited about rapping anyway. Plus, I was doing strictly hip hop at the time, so the radio shit was starting to pick up. But that was really the only time I was ever using that connect for myself to try to get on. But again, that dude was always showing love, because there was even times where he would be doing a show like in DC, and he'd be up and be like, yo, I'm in DC, you know what I'm saying, come through. And I know there's some niggas like, you ain't go? I'm a grouch. I'm like, yo, nigga, I got this shorty over here. I ain't going that shit. You know what I'm saying? My friends would be looking like, nigga, I will drive you there. Like, they want to go. But he never wavered. He never looked at me not doing anything. I guess he figured, I'm my own man. I'm doing what I do. I go to school and whatever. So, yeah, man,
It's dope. And the funny thing is, and just to big you up on that, is because, again, I've known you for 20 years. And, most dudes I know would be like, it'd be no way that you wouldn't be able to say, I didn't know Steve knew Nas. Like, like on the door to your apartment, like the outside door would be a picture of Nas, the poster Illmatic, So just the fact that you kind of kept that under wraps for the 20 years that I've known you, says a lot about you. But just tell me this, and I mean, maybe you don't. Well, I'm sure you know, because it's your aunt. Like, does Nas still come around? Like, how's your little cousin doing? How's, like any other family situations? Does Nas still show love, or, anything like that?
There was a point early on in which, he always helped out, whether it was little things financially, or even coming around. I think a lot of that started to waver once his mom's wasn't living in QB anymore.
Okay.
Because it was more of a thing like, I'm going to see my mom's. Let me go upstairs and say what's up and hang out with Miss Versi. You know what I'm saying? And again, to
now, hold tight. You said Miss Versi, so that's from Nas' second childhood. Don't curse in front of Miss Versi.
Yeah, don't curse in front of my aunt. Right. Even though she will curse.
Right.
But yeah.
All right. Now I just put, when you said Miss Versi, I'm like, yo, I heard that name before. So all right.
Yeah, that's she's more gangster than Will, put it that way.
All right, no doubt. Now tell me this. Will we start the show off with the rumor that Bezo heard that Ill Will? I'm going to try and put two and two together, since you said Will was getting better. It wasn't that good. I'm going to assume I know the answer to the question. But just for people who may not have put two and two together, do you feel like Ill Will wrote any parts of Illmatic for Nas?
I want to say no, only because I don't know enough of what they were doing as far as the rhyming and shit like that to really definitively say that shit. I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I was there enough. I was at least around Will enough to know that he wasn't like sitting there penning no Illmatic. Now I can't say that there were like stories or inspirations that may have come from him, or maybe even lines or whatever. For all I know. But the whole like, yeah, Ill Will really wrote that. Nobody in my family believes that shit, so, including his brother. We confirmed that before this interview. Like, you believe that shit? Not that he would know, he was so young, but we was like, that shit ain't happened. The problem with that is, and what's dope about it, is the fact that Nas has turned my cousin into a celebrity, and he's not even here. You know what I'm saying? He's a part of like hip hop lore, and he don't have no verse. He don't have no famous scratches. He ain't in no videos. You know what I'm saying? He's not here, but because of Nas using, him as this catapult for his career, as far as the inspiration behind his drive to make it out the hood, he's kind of become this mythical figure in hip hop because he's tied to such a classic album.
Right.
and basically being the inspiration behind it. But I think it's just internet dudes that they get bored. The story gets old. You
Well,
know?
the funny thing is supposedly this is coming from a cat who Bezo knows in Queensbridge. So, I mean, I guess the same thing. Internet story. Who gonna be better? Next week we'll be talking about who's better, Lonzo Ball or LeBron James. I know the
Yeah.
story's gotta keep.
I'll say this to the whole if okay. Because I don't know about that. Like I don't know. That just sounds like, again, even if it's not internet, the hood can be just as worse when it comes to some of that shit.
Right.
I don't see it at all.
All right. And real quick, like I know you mentioned him, but how's Will's little brother doing? He's good?
Yeah, he's good. He graduated from Iona College a couple years ago. He's married. He got a kid. He's an accountant.
Okay.
Imagine that. One thing, like with the documentary Time is Illmatic, and just, you know, even talking about Will in general, his death did a lot of good. You know what I'm saying? It turned a lot of lives around. His little brother could have been different. I could have been different. I see it could have been different. We all could be dead. We all could be in jail. But because of the type of person he was, you know what I'm saying, the caring person, you know what I'm saying, how funny he was, you know, how people who knew him really loved him. A lot of us felt compelled to do it for him, you know what I'm saying? And I know with me, that's where I kind of decided, like, you know, I'm going to graduate. And maybe that's what I thought about when I had the opportunity with Nas to rhyme. I thought about my mission wasn't complete. You know, I didn't graduate yet. Because another little inside note, I was there for the wake, but I wasn't there for the funeral. And the only reason why I wasn't there for the funeral was because I was nominated to be a part of this like academics challenge. You know how you had the different kids representing the schools?
Right.
And, you know, I thought it was a big deal that I was selected because, you know, self-esteem wasn't that high for most of us back then. I'm not even paying attention to my grades enough to know that I would be selected. And I went into it like wanting to win it for him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, that was like my complete focus, just turned to academics and getting out the hood. And the same thing with Nas. He got busy with the trying to get on, trying to get this deal, and never look back. And you know, my cousin Kennedy, Will's little brother, you know, he benefited from seeing people who he now had to look up to, like Nas, like myself, to know that he wanted to do something better with his life as well. So,
right,
you know, it's all turned out gravy for the better. You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy just hearing you say that, kind of, you know, for a piece of me puts into perspective when, you know, we sometimes ask why do good people got to die and things like that. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, in the movies where it's like, you know, the guy's like, you know, got to save the earth. So he stays on the asteroid to blow it up. You know, it's kind of like the same thing. Like, you know, just as you're talking, like his death shifted so many people's lives in a more positive direction. So yeah, that's definitely dope to think about, man. And you hit the nail right on the head as far as his name being cemented in hip hop lore. Because even when I was talking to one of my peoples on Twitter, like, yo, I'm doing the show with Vegas tonight, talking about Ill Will. He's like, oh, word, Ill Will. Oh, I can't wait to see that joint. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's like it like
that's crazy.
Yeah, like, you know, like
that's
he's
crazy to hear.
Yeah,
like every time somebody, because I've had people like, and you know, not to drag on with some of this stuff, but as far as like what you were saying about like keeping it to myself, I was never the type of dude to be like, yeah, nigga, Ill Will my cousin, and you know, I know Nas. I just wasn't that type of dude to do that. But when I started rhyming, I had like a poetry book that had rhymes in it, and this was like in high school. I wrote Ill Will Rest in Peace on the cover to that, and I had a Yankees hat I used to wear, where I had Ill Will on the side of that. And I remember, like, when my friends, they would see that shit and be looking like, Like, but they didn't want to ask, you know what I'm saying? So eventually they was like, yo, is that the same Ill Will that Nas is talking about? And, you know, I would reluctantly be like, yeah, it is. And they're like, oh, so you know Nas. But it was just, it was always crazy to have to admit, yeah, Ill Will's my cousin, and see people be like, word? And I'm thinking like, he's not even here. You would think the reaction would be more so with the connection of Nas than, oh, you're Ill Will's cousin. And it's just crazy to even think about. It just shows that, you know, for as passionate as we were about hip hop, you know what I'm saying, the effect he had, the energy he gave Nasir to feel like he can just invest the whole beginning of his career in, you know, shouting out his dead homie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to break all that stuff down. Before we started about it, before we started rolling, I don't know how you know why? Because PMD was on the show. So I was asking about Scratch. That's where we got. That's why I was like, where do we even get the Scratch from with this? But PMD was on the show, and I wanted to ask about Scratch and everything like that. So here's the question I'd ask PMD. I was like, is it really wrong? Because for people who don't know, EPMD was touring, but Scratch wasn't part of the tour. And I think it was something, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, it was something like maybe the money wasn't right, or it would have been too much money to pay Scratch to do the date, so they just did it by themselves. Is that what the story was?
Yeah, to the pedestrian, the novice outside looking in, that's essentially that essentially surmises it. You know, can you tell them in school?
Yeah, I see you writing some papers, man. You've been using good words the past couple of weeks, man. Thank you for, you know, educating us all. But tell me this. So we were talking about this. Is this wrong? Because here's my take on it. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I really haven't thought about this yet. So for people who don't know hip hop history, kind of moment right here, EPMD started with DJ Kayla Boss for their first album, Strictly Business. So Kayla Boss was the first DJ for EPMD. DJ Scratch did not start with them, so this is not a Run DMC thing where like it was Run D and J and we formed this and this is us. Scratch came, and Jason Vague just corrected me, for the second album. Unfinished. Is it Unfinished? It's so many businesses, I done lost track.
Yeah, it's Unfinished.
Okay, the second album is Unfinished Business. So Scratch came along then. I think the story is Jam Master Jay saw their show, was like, yo, you need a better DJ. Yo, meet my man Scratch. Scratch joined the group. Is it wrong for them not to include Scratch in an EPMD package? So if EPMD is talking to the promoters, it's like, look, we need this for me, P, and Scratch. Because again, what I was saying is I never felt like Scratch was actually probably signed to the label. Whatever label they were on, Def Jam, 4th and Broadway, you know, they was on Fresh. I'm sorry, they was on Fresh Records before Def Jam. Like, he wasn't signed to that label. So it's almost like he was a DJ for hire. And in the business world, he was a consultant. He doesn't have, when you're a consultant, a lot of times you don't have health insurance through the firm. You're just a person for hire to do a job. If that's how Scratch was, is it wrong for them to not include him on the tour? Jace, what do you think?
So, again, from the outside looking in, man, there's music, there's business, and then there's the music business, right?
Right.
It all depends on the relationship between the three of them. If we're crew, you give me your word, this is how we're going to flip it. I mean, we got 20 years worth of history. I'm not questioning you because your integrity is intact up to this point, right? But if it switches up and there's an issue and we can't even sit down like men and discuss this out, then I definitely have a problem with it, man. If you just cutting me, if you just lowballing me, you just nixing me because you found somebody else that can do the job, maybe not as good a job, but do the job for a cheaper price, then you cutting me out, and you not only that, but you shorten the people that have been there to support you two and DJ Scratch from day one. He's got some phenomenal cuts on the albums over the years, and all three of them are dope producers. Let's not get it twisted. But Scratch definitely does his damn thing production wise as well, right? I got a problem with that, man. If we crew and we're in business together, as grown men, we should be able to discuss all of that. I don't know the ins and outs again, but as a fan and as somebody who would aspire, who would like to do something like that, yo, your integrity means everything, yo. Always keep your word. It's one of the 4 principles, yo.
All right, Vague, what you think, man?
I think he's earned the right to get a split or even split between the 3, because like you say, you know, he came along on the second album. On every album they had a scratch bring it back type record or whatever that was dedicated to him. A couple of their hits, his scratches are just as memorable as the beats and the verses. And he's kind of built a name for himself, you know, not just being with them, but he's expanded upon that from producing to the point where, you know, he's definitely a huge part of the show. You know what I'm saying? Because if I'm going to see EPMD and DJ Scratch isn't with them,
I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it because
I was
it's
just
kind of incomplete now. You know, I want to hear that.
Y'all don't want to see it without. So if EPMD,
I've seen him twice, Kill. I walked out the second time when Scratch wasn't there because it wasn't the same show. Wasn't the same show.
Like, think about those scratches in Gold Digger.
No, I feel you. The funny thing about scratches is I sample his scratches because I don't have no DJ, so I have sampled the scratch from God. I've used it so much. People were saying, "Can you take that out the beat?" Kill the whole ladies and gentlemen from that was give the people what they want, the remix. So you do that shit live. Old digger scratches right at the end.
Watch him do that shit live and not miss a beat. The shit sounds just like, you know, you hear DJs and they have little nicks here and there. They made just like a niche off, just a little bit off. His shit is crystal clear, pristine. Y'all seen the breaker, the engine number 9. Pick it up. Watch that motherfucker do that shit live in a show, mid-show, going back and forth, yo, and don't miss a beat. Take his shoe off, middle of the show, scratching with an Air Force One, and don't miss a beat. And bringing the playing their track, bringing the sample in, cutting it up, flipping it, and not missing a beat. Yo, they are not that many people who can do that.
I think if he was the type of DJ who was just there to spin the record so they could rhyme over it, wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah,
he's a show within himself.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. He don't necessarily need them for people to be entertained.
And he's the conductor. He is the conductor. Them motherfuckers don't know what they don't got no playlist. They ain't got no playlist. He come out and he directs them.
I got a different type of show, yo. I got a story.
I really don't like the stories, man. They never
positive note. But it relates though. It relates. Because we talking about EPMD in the later years.
Right.
The show without Scratch. They did this show without Scratch. I forget what show it was. But whatever it was, when they came out, people were bouncing. Now, I don't know if they were bouncing because it was EPMD or because there was no Scratch or whatever, but I remember this person telling me that they were on the mic appreciating the people who stayed. Like, and I ain't talking about, you know, some shit like, yo, fuck them people leaving, you know what I'm saying? These the real hip-hop fans. I mean, like, thank y'all 3 motherfuckers for hanging around as we do our hits. And I was thinking, like, now imagine you have somebody like DJ Scratch just before you even start playing any records, just open up doing some crazy shit on the turntables that would make a person be like, God damn, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right. You know, the problem is
that man get his money.
The funny thing is, I think it's been so long. Well, I mean, I went to the DJ Premier Pete Rock show, but I think it's been so long since the DJ has been the focal part of a show. You know what I mean? Like, it's been so long that I kind of forget how much of an intricate part they used to play. You know what I mean? Because if we're going back to Gold Digger, or even Scratch Bring It Back, you know, that's 92. You know what I mean? So it's almost been 20 plus years.
25 years.
Yeah, you know, it's been 25 years since the DJ. So hearing y'all talk, I get it. But I think for me, I've been to a couple of shows down here at the Howard Theater or the 930 Club, Joe Button, you know, whoever. But the DJ just hasn't been such a big part of a show anymore that I'm kind of just used to, you know, not even wanting to see that. You know what I mean? So it was just shocking to hear that y'all like, yo, fuck that. If Scratch ain't there, we out. I'm like, damn, like, you know,
I think it's because it's them. You know what I'm saying? Because if it was, you know, rest in peace Prodigy, but if it was somebody like Mobb Deep, you know, there's no DJ attached to it. They'll have a DJ there.
Right.
But you're not expecting that as much as, you know, like a Kane show where you like, yo, Scoob and Scrap better come out and dance with him. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I see.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, Kill. It's a part of the package.
Right.
Would you go see Will Smith perform live by himself? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, I was just smiling because I was just thinking in my head, would I go see Fresh Prince?
You definitely would pay to go see Jazzy Jeff.
Right. Okay. I got you. That's just exactly what I was thinking right when Vegas was talking. Like, yo, would I go see Fresh Prince if Jazzy Jeff wasn't going to be there? It's like, hell no. Like, nah, but you know, what the sad part is I guess I never took Scratch as such a huge element of EPMD. You know what I mean? Like, I love EPMD so much that, you know, for me, they could rock off of that machine to give me Strictly Business, or, you know, so what you're saying and all of that.
So I equate it to this, Kill. If you go to Vegas before you go to Atlantic City, you're not going to Atlantic City again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I see what you're saying. I think just because the other thing with Fresh Prince is he wasn't a great MC. Like, he really didn't have a lot of hits, you know, to perform.
You don't think so?
Nah, I mean, outside, once he does Summertime, I mean, nah. Like, I mean, you know, I pray to God he doesn't do Parents Just Don't Understand. You know? So it's like, and then everything else is like, you know, off the Magnificent, it's going to be the Magnificent Jazzy Jeff, Rock the House with Ready Rock C. Like, to me, he just always had other elements that made him dope. You know what I mean? So, you know, whereas with EPMD, I still look at them like, yo, they was dope. Like, Strictly Business before they even knew Scratch is either my first or second favorite EPMD album. You know what I mean? So it would be like if Fresh Prince had an album out before he even met Jazzy Jeff that I'm like, yo, this dude was nasty, then the answer may be different. You know what I mean? But they were just such a duo, and to me, it's almost like Jeff held him down. I never looked at it like Scratch held EPMD down. I felt like he played a huge part. You know what I mean? But I didn't feel like, yo, if, you know, God forbid, EPMD breaking up to me was bigger than if Scratch would have left the group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, and again, there's no knock on Scratch. I watched Scratch Vision. There's no knock on Scratch. Yeah. But again, we were talking about earlier with Salt and Pepper. It was some hoopla when Spinderella wanted to be, I guess there was a label deal or it was some type of deal, and she wanted to be cut in as a third of the group. And they was like, well, nah, because you wasn't down from day one. You wasn't the original Spinderella. Like, you wasn't there for the shows where we had to lug the records. You wasn't there through all the BS. You kind of just came in. So as again, you're a consultant. Like, we pay you to do your job, and that's it. You're not going to be cut in. So when Salt and Pepper had all them Geico commercials or whatever, there was no Spinderella. If I'm not mistaken, there was no Spin, you know, because it's just like, you know, kind of like, yo, the name of the group is Salt and Pepper. Like, you know, the name of the group is EPMD. Like, I always wondered growing up as a shorty, like, yo, is Jam Master Jay really part of the group? Because it's Run DMC. You know, it wasn't Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince or Eric B and Rakim or things like that. But I do think Jay was signed to the label and he got a third of the cut. But I mean, I feel you. I guess it's just, you know, the difference between being a consultant and being an employee. And most people who are consultants are trying to be employees because they want those benefits. So I understand why Scratch is like, nah, I want to be an employee, or why Spin is like, I want to, you know, but then also as the business, I understand them being like, nah, we got to cut them costs. You know, it's, you know, now, like you said, Jason, if there was something like, yo, there's a word like, yo, you have our word, we're going to bring you in, or, and they go wrong on that, then I totally get it. But, you know, if
not only that, Kill, but Scratch was taking a short even when he was touring with him. You do understand that this man was making more money by himself than he was on tour with EPMD.
But then here's the thing: it's almost like me saying I'm a consultant at my job, but I'm making selling beats. Well, then I really don't have to work at my job. That's up to me to work at my job. You know, so it's not. I wouldn't say that's EMP's fault because I wouldn't blame you, PMD. Like I don't blame you right now, man. I'm trying to defend you. You know,
I hear you, but at the end of the day, you know who really suffers. We all know who really suffers at the end of the day.
The fans.
Yeah, they don't get the experience.
Right.
I don't want a penguin, yo.
You brought that up.
I don't want a penguin, yo.
What were we saying, Vegas?
No, I was saying like when you brought like with Spinderella is totally different because I look at.
I mean, she don't bring nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I look at her like I look at Mr. Dalvin from Jodeci.
Hey, Mr. Dalvin had them hot 16s, bro. No, I'm joking.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we know you play a part, but you kind of don't matter as much. You know what I'm saying? Whereas somebody like Scratch made himself matter in that group to a point where he became a part of the EPMD attraction.
Right.
And he's kind of like, not to say that their shows are like this, but he's kind of like what once Freaky Tide died. Like Lost Boys Records was just like, that dude ain't being a hype man. It don't sound the same. You know what I'm saying?
Now you're right.
I could see a show being cool when they doing that first album, but once they start moving into them other cuts, and especially when you used to seeing footage of Scratch going crazy while they on tour, you're like, yo, they need that element back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I guess it's for us old heads because I'm sure this younger generation, you know, don't know nothing about the DJ, you know, and doesn't really.
Like you said though, Kill, they who have they ever experienced it? If they experienced it, then you know, now you know. But if you don't, how can you not know something that you? How can you know something that you don't know?
Right. I get you. I got you. So the vote is that EPMD should make Scratch a full-time employee.
We brothers or we crew. We should be able to discuss it.
All right. I feel you. All right, they give them all your information, man, about the podcast and everything. This is the dude to go to for your hip hop news. I got too much shit to do to figure out everything. You can go to Vegas. It's a one-stop shop. This nigga is like a bodega. You can go in there and get everything you need, man. I was in New York a while ago and I had to get some dog food. The bodega had the dog. I mean, they got everything. It may only be like four cans of it, and you only lucky enough to get that third can. You can get all your hip hop news in one spot, everything right there. I was looking at your joint, the tweet I sent out earlier, retweeting your joint. I had no idea Dre is working on Eminem's new album.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm supposed to be working on some stuff, which is a good look, you know, when you think about it, because I think M was best when Dre was working on his albums. You know what I'm saying? Just a certain different energy and chemistry with those two that was best back then, as opposed to when Eminem started doing his own beats, which kind of sound all the same and shit.
Right.
But you can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, and you can check out my podcast. It's called Hip Hop Now Podcast. It's on SoundCloud.com/Hip Hop Now Podcast, and it's available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, everything. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, hip hop news and perspectives.
All right, no doubt. And also, check out our 3 albums. Go to his Bandcamp, Vegas World Inc. Bandcamp.com. We got The Gray Area. You're all welcome. Keep Calm. He's got joints with my man McLovin. We got the Best of Vegas mixtape that's out there. That's dope. So definitely for all the people who watch the show and it's like, oh, word, you was nice till you come to the studio. Like, I want to hear something. There you go, right there.
Any chance you coming out of retirement there, Vegas?
Nah, man. No, this is what you gotta do with Vegas. I'm gonna say off camera what you gotta do to get this nigga around. We not in front of him. It's one of them guys. You know, like you could trick somebody, but you can't let them know you're tricking them. Like off camera, I'll tell you about how we can get Vegas to get back out here. I got something for him too. Because one MC I'm messing with, he rocks with, and the MC rocks with him too. So I'm using that MC to get him back out. So, you know, that's just one of my tricks. This is like, you know, I get trying to get Fife to come to the studio. You gotta do little things
There is a ground Noomsy.
Yeah. He's coming out of retirement, whether he knows it or not, whether he wants to or not. Somehow, some way, he's coming out of retirement. I just gotta get enough strings pulled. We talking about shooting a video, so he's coming back. He's coming back.
Aha.
Exactly. He just don't know it yet, but he's coming back. The streets need him. All right, Jace, give him all your info, bro.
JTyler0801 on IG, Twitter at JERIK. Vegas, thank you. Kill, thank you. Everybody watching, thank you.
Now, we thank you for all the years of music you gave us. Just the fact that you continued that Hit Squad tour after finding out E robbed you. Just the fact that you was able to put that to the side to make sure Das and K Solo and Red E, dog, man, hats off, salute to you, bro. Because I don't know how
you did. I got another show idea for you, real quick. You know how we always talk about, like, we talked on this podcast, like, back in the days, you're trying to see some of your favorite hip hop legends.
Right.
But what about when you see them years later?
Word.
I got a couple of stories where.
See, Vegas, the problem with Vegas' stories is that Vegas is your older cousin. My older cousin from Brooklyn would always come to my crib in Philly and be like, yo, you like this wrestling shit? This shit fake. And me and he was like 5, 6 years older than me. We be wrestling, he be whooping my ass. But because every time he said I swing on him, like, man, this shit real, man. The Road Warriors and Pressure, they real, man. The Midnight Express and Jimmy Cornette, like, these real. That's Vegas. Vegas wants to crush all your hip hop dreams. He wants to tell you Biggie ain't right, nothing, and all these. So anytime Vegas has a story to tell, y'all always gonna see me cut the camera off of him because the stories are never end well for our hip hop heroes. They just don't. I don't know how he gets he's like the media takeout of bad hip hop stories. So don't as soon as
but see, this the crazy part. Some of this shit happened around me, man. I ain't want to discover none of this shit. You know what I'm saying?
But like I said, it only happens to Vegas. Nobody else comes on this show. Nobody else is on. Some of the shit I see on my timeline will amaze y'all. Nobody crushes dreams like Vegas does. So I don't know why he finds it out. I don't know what it is. But
you can't just keep your head down.
If Vegas ever tweets at you like, I got a story, just block that nigga for like the rest of the day. So your hip hop dreams do not get crushed. Trust and believe. That is what it is with him. So y'all already know what it is with me. Kill889 on Twitter. We'll make beats for food. Please do me this justice. Check out me and Vegas's albums. I'm not saying this just because it's ours. I was listening to The Gray Area today. It's 10 years old, and I swear to you, I was like, yo, this shit is dope. And I'm the hardest person on our shit, so trust me. Check it out. Tweet at me. Y'all do any way. Tell me it's not dope, but yo, I really think if you check out these joints, I always said, you're all welcome. What's our lead single off You're All Welcome?
I got a song for you.
I got a song for you. I always say, it could be the same beats and the same rhymes. And if it was Pete and CL Smooth, niggas would be jumping out the fucking window for that joint right now. That's my words. It could be the same beat, same exact rhymes, and people will be losing their mind. Like, yo, did you hear how Pete chopped that? Did you hear how CL said that? But because it's killing Vegas, it's just killing Vegas. Check it out and let me know. Let us know what you think. Y'all already know what it is. Check y'all next week, y'all.
It will rest in peace.
No doubt. It will rest in peace. Definitely a dope episode, man. Definitely.